My evil stepsister framed me for stealing and turned my family against me for 30 years, until I secretly set a trap she couldn't escape. I am 40 now, married with 2 awesome daughters, and life is not bad. I am a lawyer, and things are pretty chill these days. But man, growing up, it was pure hell. My stepsister made sure of that. I am not even exaggerating. To this day, I call her the devil because, honestly, there is no other word that fits better. Let me give you some backstory. My dad died when I was about 6, and it was just me, my older brother, and my younger brother with my mom. We were getting by, you know. Things were not great, but we had each other. Then my mom remarried when I was around 7 or 8. My stepdad, who seemed decent at first, came into the picture, and with him came her, my stepsister, the devil herself. She was the same age as me. And from day one, it was clear she hated us. I did not get it at the time, but looking back, I think she thought we were invading her space, like we were taking away her dad's attention. So, she made it her personal mission to turn my life upside down. She played all these mind games and lied constantly. But the thing is, in public, she acted like the sweetest, most innocent girl ever. Like, people legit thought she was an angel. But behind closed doors, that is where the real her came out. It was not even subtle. She would make stuff up, tell my stepdad and my mom all kinds of lies about me and my brothers. Like, she once told them I stole money from her purse. It was a straight up lie. I did not even know where she kept her purse, but they believed her. And that is just one example. I am talking about years of this kind of stuff. And the worst part, my stepdad ate it up. He believed every word she said, like she could do no wrong. And my mom, she went along with it because I guess she wanted to keep the peace or whatever. So there I was, stuck in this house where I was the constant bad guy. I did not even understand why I was being treated so differently. It was not like I was a troublemaker or anything. In fact, I was the opposite. I kept my head down, did what I was told, but nothing was ever good enough. My brothers got allowances. They were allowed to go out with friends, have part-time jobs, all that normal stuff. Me? I got nothing. No allowance, no permission to go anywhere, no job, no nothing. I will never forget the time when everyone started getting cell phones. It was the 90s, so they were a big deal back then. Everyone in my school had one. Even my brothers eventually got them. But me? Nope. Not allowed. My stepdad said I did not deserve one, whatever that means. I had to use the landline like it was the Stone Age. And if I wanted to make plans with friends, I had to sneak around just to avoid getting in trouble. Speaking of sneaking around, that was basically my life. If I ever wanted to go anywhere, I had to plan it like a prison break. I knew that if I asked to go out, the answer would be a hard no. No reason, just no. Meanwhile, my brothers got to do all the stuff I wanted to do. Weekend trips, parties, hanging out with friends after school. I was not even allowed to invite people over to our house because, according to my stepdad, I was irresponsible. One of the most messed up things, though, was how I was not allowed to work. My friends were getting part-time jobs, making a bit of money, getting some independence. Not me. When I asked why, they told me it was dangerous for me to have money. Dangerous? What does that even mean? But of course, they never bothered to explain. I had no choice but to rely on whatever scraps they gave me, which was not much. Fast forward a few years, and I am in college. I managed to get a scholarship, thank God, but I still needed to work to cover my expenses. I was lucky enough to get an internship with this big shot lawyer. The guy was a genius, but cheap as hell. So, while I was getting great experience, I was not getting paid enough to cover rent, food, or anything else. I was struggling big time. Now, you would think my parents would help me out, right? I mean, I was working hard, doing everything I could to make something of myself. But nope. Every time I asked for any kind of support, it turned into a huge fight. My stepdad would say I was not working hard enough, that I was lazy and entitled. Lazy? I was busting my ass trying to keep up with school, my internship, and just surviving. But nothing I did was ever enough for him. Meanwhile, the devil was living like royalty. She got everything handed to her on a silver platter, new clothes, trips abroad, a brand new car when she graduated high school. You name it. I remember when she got that car. She had barely passed her driving test, but my stepdad bought her this shiny new ride like she was the Queen of England. I was furious, but what could I do? I was not even allowed to drive the family car to get to my internship. I had to beg friends for rides just to get to work. I will never forget the day I finally saved up enough money to buy a car. It was nothing fancy, but it was mine. I was so proud of myself. I thought maybe, just maybe, my stepdad would see that I was responsible, that I was capable of doing something good. But you know what he said when I pulled up to the house with it? He told me I could not park it in our driveway. He said I did not deserve to have a car, so I had to park it at my friend's place down the street. I was furious, but again, what could I do? I was not even living in a place where I had any real say in my own life. The devil, of course, loved every minute of it. She would smirk at me from across the room like she knew she had the upper hand. And I guess in a way she did. She had my stepdad wrapped around her finger, and my mom was too scared to stand up to him, so I was left out in the cold. It is funny. People think growing up in a blended family is like some cheesy sitcom where everyone becomes best friends. But for me, it was a nightmare. It is not like I did not try to stand up for myself. I did. But every time I confronted my stepdad about how unfair things were, it just made everything worse. He would lecture me for hours about how ungrateful I was, how I did not appreciate the sacrifices he made for me and my brothers. Meanwhile, the devil just kept on lying, kept on manipulating, and I kept getting the short end of the stick. By the time I was halfway through college, I knew I had to get out of there. The environment was toxic, and I was suffocating. I started looking for other job opportunities, something that paid better than my internship. I finally found a decent paying job at another firm. But when I told my original boss I was leaving, he was pissed. He did not understand why I could not just stick it out, but I had no choice. I needed money, and I was not getting any support from home. It was not long after that I got kicked out of the house. My stepdad told me I was not welcome there anymore. So, I packed up my stuff and left. I did not look back. And you know what? Leaving was the best decision I ever made. So, after I finally left the house, you would think things would start getting better, right? Like getting away from my toxic stepdad and that devil of a stepsister would be the end of all the drama. But nah, it only got worse from there. I guess she was not satisfied with just messing up my life at home. She had to ruin everything outside of it, too. Let me backtrack a bit. When I started working at my new job, things were finally looking up. I was getting paid decently, had some breathing room financially, and I was excited about the future. I could actually take my girlfriend out on dates, buy my own food, pay my own rent, stuff that sounds normal, but it felt like a luxury after the way I grew up. I thought I was done with all that family drama. But of course, the devil was not done with me. She had this weird obsession with making sure I never had it good. It was like the moment I started doing better for myself, she had to find some way to drag me down. One day, out of nowhere, my mom calls me. Now, I was not really on speaking terms with her at that point because of everything that had happened, but she sounded desperate, so I answered. She tells me my stepsister has been telling the whole family that I abandoned them, that I am some kind of ungrateful jerk who turned my back on them after they raised me. And apparently, she was making it sound like I left her and my stepdad in some kind of financial crisis. I could not believe it. Here I was just trying to live my life, and this girl was out there telling people I had abandoned the family, like I had not been treated like trash for years. And worse, she had convinced most of the extended family that I was the villain in this whole situation. It did not take long for the phone calls to start coming in. First, it was an aunt I had not talked to in years asking me why I was being so heartless. Then it was my stepdad's brother. This guy was furious, telling me I was a disgrace and that I needed to do the right thing and come back to the family. Like, what even was the right thing? Going back to be treated like dirt all over again? Every time I tried to explain my side of things, it was like talking to a wall. No one wanted to hear it. The devil had already gotten to them, and they believed everything she said. It was like she had this power over people. She could manipulate them so easily. Like they did not even bother to question her lies. Meanwhile, I was stuck trying to defend myself, and no one cared. At work, things were going fine, but I could not shake the constant stress from all the family drama. It was like this cloud hanging over me. And no matter how much I tried to focus on my job or my relationship, it was always there in the background messing with my head. Every day, I would get another call or text from a relative guilt-tripping me about family values and how I needed to make amends. But amends for what? For standing up for myself, for leaving a toxic situation? One time, my cousin called me, someone I was actually close to growing up. I thought maybe he would be different, that he would hear me out. But nope, same story. He started going off about how I was tearing the family apart, how my stepdad and stepsister were struggling, and I was just sitting back letting it happen. He made it sound like they were on the verge of losing the house or something. I was not going to let that one slide, though, so I called my mom to get the real story. I asked her straight up if they were having money problems. She hesitated, which was weird because my mom was always straightforward about stuff like that. Then she admitted that no, they were not struggling at all. In fact, my stepdad had just bought himself a new boat. A boat. And here was my stepsister spreading rumors that they were barely getting by. At that point, I realized this was not just about me leaving home. This was about control. The devil could not stand the fact that I had gotten out, that I was finally doing okay on my own. She needed to keep me under her thumb. And the only way she knew how to do that was through lies and manipulation. She was not just lying to my family. She was lying to everyone around her, trying to make herself look like the victim while making me out to be the bad guy. The worst part was how she would go out of her way to make me look like a failure. She would tell everyone that I was struggling in my job, that I was not making any money, that my relationship was falling apart. None of it was true, but that did not stop her. She needed everyone to believe that I was doing worse than her, because in her twisted mind, if I was suffering, she was winning. And of course, she was not satisfied with just turning the family against me. She had to take it even further. I started hearing rumors about myself at work. People would come up to me saying they had heard I was irresponsible, that I did not take my job seriously, that I was causing trouble outside of work. It did not take long for me to figure out where these rumors were coming from. The devil had found out where I was working, and she started spreading lies about me to my coworkers. It is like she had no limits. She would do anything to ruin my life, even if it meant getting involved with my career. It was unreal. I had to work twice as hard to prove myself at the firm just to shut down the rumors before they could affect my job. Every day was like walking on eggshells, wondering when the next lie was going to come out, wondering who was going to hear it and believe it. I remember one day my boss pulled me into his office. He said he had heard some concerning things and wanted to know if everything was all right. I had to sit there and explain the whole family situation to him. And I could tell he did not fully believe me. I mean, who would? It sounded insane. My stepsister was out there spreading lies about me to anyone who would listen. And I had to sit there defending myself over stuff that never even happened. After that, I realized I had two choices. Either I could keep fighting every lie that came my way, or I could just let it go. I was exhausted from all the drama, and the more I fought back, the worse it seemed to get. So, I decided to take a step back. I stopped trying to defend myself to the family. I stopped explaining myself. Let them believe whatever they wanted to believe. At the end of the day, I knew the truth, and that is all that mattered. But the thing is, it did not stop hurting. No matter how much I tried to distance myself from it all, it still got to me. The constant lies, the feeling of being the black sheep, the outsider in my own family, it ate away at me. I had built this whole life for myself outside of that toxic house. But the devil still had her claws in me, even from a distance. And that is when I knew this was not just about me leaving. She was not going to stop until she had completely ruined me. And if I was not careful, she was going to succeed. By the time I thought I had some peace in my life, things took a sharp turn into complete madness. It was not enough for my stepsister to just make things difficult for me at work and with the family. No, she had to take it to the next level. And this time, it got real ugly. Out of nowhere, I started hearing rumors, nasty ones, stuff that would make anyone's blood boil. And not just the usual lies about me being irresponsible or a bad son. No, she went way beyond that. Suddenly, people were whispering that I was dangerous, that I had done things, disgusting things. You can probably guess where this is going, but I will spell it out because it is still surreal to me. One day, my phone started blowing up with texts from some extended family members, people I had not spoken to in years. At first, I thought it was just the usual family nonsense, but the messages got more and more intense. It was not your typical "why don't you come to the family dinner?" Or "you should really reach out to your mom more." These were messages accusing me of the worst kind of stuff. My cousin, someone I had barely interacted with growing up, was accusing me of molesting her when we were kids. Yeah, you read that right. She said I had done things to her 20 years ago, and now she was suddenly telling the whole family about it. I was in shock. I literally did not even know how to respond. It felt like I was hit with something I could not even process. And of course, she was not the only one. The devil, my stepsister, had apparently been whispering in everyone's ear, saying that I had abused multiple family members when we were younger. One of her biggest lies was that I had also molested another cousin and even implied that I might be a danger to my own daughters. Now, imagine getting messages from family members who believe this kind of garbage. One of my uncles, the father of one of the cousins I supposedly hurt, was ready to come after me. He was that angry. And who could blame him? If someone told you that one of your family members had been harming your kid for years, would not you go ballistic, too? The fact that he believed it so easily just added another level of messed up to the whole situation. I knew deep down this was all her doing, my stepsister's twisted way of trying to destroy me. But how do you even begin to defend yourself from something so outrageous? It was not like I could just show up and say, "Hey, by the way, all of this is made up. No one wants to hear that. Once the lie is out there, it is like a stain that never really goes away. At first, I tried to ignore it. Maybe if I just stayed quiet, the lies would blow over. But I was wrong. Things escalated quickly. Some relatives cut off all contact with me. People I thought were my friends growing up now treated me like I was some kind of monster. I was being cast out of the family even more than I already was. I could not take it anymore. I knew I had to do something, or this was going to eat me alive. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went to my parents' house. I did not plan to confront them at first, but I knew I needed to get in front of this disaster before it completely destroyed me. I showed up at their place, and I could tell my mom was surprised to see me. We had not exactly been on great terms since I moved out, but I did not care about any of that at the moment. I just needed to set the record straight. I needed them to hear the truth from me before my stepsister's lies poisoned them any further. I sat them down, and it felt like my entire body was shaking. I am not someone who gets nervous easily, but this was different. I was about to unload some of the most personal stuff from my life, stuff I was not even sure I would ever want to say out loud. But I had no choice. I told them everything. I started with my stepsister's accusations, how she was spreading these sick rumors that I had hurt our cousins. I made sure they knew it was all lies. Then I went deeper. I told them about the stuff from my past that could have been twisted against me. I talked about things I never thought I would have to explain to my parents. Like how years ago, one of the cousins my stepsister mentioned was not even related to us at the time. We had kissed when we were teenagers before we even knew we were cousins. And it was something innocent, something that never went beyond that. I also told them other things I thought might come up, like how I experimented with weed back when I was younger. Now that might sound like nothing, but my parents are super religious. I am talking hardcore ultra-conservative. So, even saying the word weed in front of them was like dropping a grenade. But I knew I had to do it because I did not want my stepsister to use anything against me. I figured if I was honest about everything, she would have no weapons left. It was tough. My parents just sat there stunned. My mom did not know what to say. My stepdad, surprisingly, was not yelling for once, which kind of freaked me out, to be honest. He is usually the first one to start throwing accusations around, but in that moment, they actually listened. By the end of it, I felt like I had just run a marathon. I was exhausted physically and mentally, but I could see a change in them. For the first time in I do not even know how long, they actually seemed to believe me. I could tell they were starting to question everything my stepsister had told them over the years. I did not get any apologies or anything like that. Not yet. But I could see that something had shifted. That night, after I left their house, I crashed hard. The emotional weight of everything was too much. The stress had taken its toll on me. And a couple of days later, I ended up in the hospital with pancreatitis. It was scary. But looking back, I think it was just my body saying, enough is enough. But the truth is, I was not done yet. I knew there was still a long road ahead, and I was not going to let her win. She might have thought she could ruin me, but for the first time, I realized that I had the power to fight back. So, after that mess with my stepsister spreading lies and my hospital scare, I realized something important. If I kept trying to fight her directly, she would just keep finding new ways to drag me down. It was like dealing with a snake. The more you try to grab it, the more it slithers away, making things worse. I needed a different approach. I did not need to fight her anymore. I just needed to let her self-destruct. I started talking with my brothers and even my half-brothers. We had all had our share of problems with her over the years, but most of them were not as directly targeted as I was. Still, they knew what kind of person she was. We came up with a plan, and it was not some grand scheme or anything like that. It was actually pretty simple. We were all going to ignore her, like completely. No engagement, no responses to her texts, no answering her phone calls, nothing. We figured that if she did not get a reaction from us, she would eventually slip up on her own. It was not easy at first. She kept trying to bait us into reacting. There was this one time she sent this super long text to our family group chat. It was full of her usual lies, like how I was the problem child and how I had abandoned the family after all they had done for me. She even tried to turn my own brothers against me, saying stuff like, you know, deep down, he was always selfish. Classic manipulation, right? But here is the thing. None of us took the bait. Not a single response in the group chat. We all just let her rant. You could tell she was expecting someone to jump in and back her up. But when no one did, she got more desperate. It was actually kind of satisfying to see her scrambling to maintain control. The hardest part, though, was staying quiet. Every time she sent some ridiculous message or made some insane claim, I had this urge to defend myself. I wanted to shout from the rooftops how full of crap she was. But I knew that is exactly what she wanted. She fed off drama. She needed me to react. So, I kept quiet. And my brothers did, too. I am not going to lie. It was frustrating. For years, I had been the one trying to prove myself, to clear my name, to get people to see the truth. But now, I was not saying anything at all. It felt like I was giving her control when in reality it was the exact opposite. The less I engaged, the more she spiraled. About a month into the whole silent treatment strategy, she started trying new tactics. First, she tried playing the victim card. She texted our mom, saying how we were all ganging up on her, how she felt abandoned by her own family. Then, she started messaging my stepdad with the same sob story, saying that she was always the one left out and how she did not understand why everyone was treating her like this. Of course, my mom and stepdad bought into it at first. I mean, they had been buying her act for years, so why would this time be any different? But something had shifted after I laid everything out for them. My stepdad, the same guy who used to scream at me for being ungrateful, actually called me to ask for advice. Can you believe that? He was like, "What should we do? She is making it sound like we are being unfair to her." I told him the truth. She was manipulating them just like she always had. I explained that if they really wanted to get through this, they had to stop giving her attention. I said, "Look, I know you have spent years trying to keep the peace. But this is not about peace anymore. This is about control. If you give her an inch, she is going to take a mile." It took some convincing, but they finally agreed to try it out. For the first time in years, they stopped caving to her demands. They stopped responding to her pity parties, and I could tell it was driving her insane. She did not give up easily, though. That is not her style. She tried escalating things even more. One day, out of nowhere, she sent this long emotional email to my wife, like full of fake concern and dramatic language. She started going on about how she was worried for our daughters, implying that I was not a safe person to have around them. She tried to sound all sympathetic, like she was just being a good sister-in-law, trying to help. It was so obvious what she was doing. She was trying to drive a wedge between me and my wife. Maybe she thought my wife did not know the real story. Maybe she thought she could convince her that I was this terrible person and it would mess up my marriage. My wife, though, she is smart. She was not falling for any of it. She read the email, showed it to me, and we both laughed at how pathetic it was. Then she did exactly what we had been doing this whole time. Nothing. No response, no acknowledgement, just silence. It was not long before the rest of the family started catching on. My stepdad's brother, who had been one of her biggest supporters, stopped replying to her texts. My cousins, who had been distant ever since her accusations, started reaching out to me again, asking how I was doing. It was like they were waking up from this spell she had cast over them, and that is when I knew we were winning. The more we ignored her, the more desperate she got. She was like a balloon inflating with her own rage, just waiting to pop. Every day that went by without a response was like adding more pressure. I could tell she was on the edge of losing it completely. At family events, we kept the same strategy. If she showed up, we were polite but distant. We did not engage with her. She would make these passive-aggressive comments trying to get a rise out of us, but we did not bite. If she tried to start a conversation, we kept it short and neutral, like we were talking to a stranger. The silent treatment was killing her. I could see it. She could not stand not being in control, not being the center of attention. The more we ignored her, the more unhinged she became. She started lashing out in small ways, like posting weird, cryptic messages on social media or sending random texts to people accusing them of betraying her. But none of it worked. We stayed quiet, and it drove her insane. By the end of that first year, she was barely holding it together. She had gone from being the family favorite to someone no one wanted to deal with. And the best part, I did not have to do anything but stay silent. It was not over yet, though. I knew she was going to slip up eventually. It was only a matter of time. So, fast forward about 2 years into this whole silent treatment strategy. At this point, my stepsister, the devil, as I call her, was unraveling, and I could see it happening right in front of me. The more we ignored her, the more desperate she became and the more mistakes she started making. But none of us expected what was about to happen at my stepbrother's wedding. That is where everything finally blew up. The wedding was a big deal for the family. My stepbrother was getting married, and pretty much the entire extended family was invited. Now, I was not really looking forward to seeing my stepsister, but I knew it was unavoidable. We were bound to run into each other. I figured we would just keep our distance and keep things civil like we had been doing for the past couple of years. The day of the wedding, I showed up with my wife, and everything seemed fine at first. You know how weddings are. Everyone is happy, catching up, taking pictures, pretending like everything is perfect. But of course, it did not take long for the devil to try and stir up some drama. I noticed her lurking around trying to strike up conversations with people, and most of them were giving her the cold shoulder. It was kind of satisfying to see, honestly. After all those years of her manipulating people and being the center of attention, now nobody wanted anything to do with her. But she was not going to let it go that easily. About halfway through the reception, she cornered my wife. I did not see the whole thing go down, but my wife told me about it later. Apparently, the devil had this smug look on her face like she was about to drop some big secret. She leaned in and started whispering all these lies about me, saying I was a danger to our daughters and that my wife should be careful around me. She was trying to plant seeds of doubt, hoping to wreck my marriage. She really thought she was about to pull one over on us. My wife, though, she did not even flinch. She let her ramble on and then just smiled, walked away, and came straight to me to tell me everything. We both knew it was time to act. The devil had pushed too far, and this was her big mistake. Now, here is where things got interesting. I had screenshots of her crazy messages, her lies, all saved up from years of dealing with her nonsense. I had not planned on using them at the wedding, but after hearing what she pulled with my wife, I figured it was the perfect time to end this once and for all. So, I pulled out my phone, opened up the group chat that included pretty much the entire extended family, and dropped the screenshots. Yep, I exposed her right then and there. The group chat lit up like a Christmas tree. People were shocked, to say the least. She had been playing the victim for so long, and suddenly there was all this undeniable proof of how manipulative she was. I did not even have to explain myself. The screenshots spoke for themselves. She had called me a danger to my own kids, spread lies about me molesting our cousins, and tried to ruin my marriage, all in her own words. It did not take long for the devil to realize what had happened. I saw her checking her phone, and the look on her face was priceless. She went pale like she knew she was finally caught. But instead of admitting she was wrong or trying to apologize, she did what she always does. She doubled down. She replied in the group chat, trying to gaslight everyone, saying that I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I had always been the dramatic one. You know, classic manipulation. But this time, it did not work. Nobody bought it. One by one, my cousins, uncles, and even a few of my aunts started calling her out. They were tired of her lies, tired of the way she had been tearing the family apart for years. It was like the floodgates had opened, and everyone was finally seeing her for who she really was. People who had stayed quiet for so long in competence started sharing their own stories about how she had manipulated them, lied to them, used them. It was brutal, but honestly, it was long overdue. And just when I thought it could not get any crazier, she made another mistake. She texted my wife again, begging her to delete my messages from the group chat and telling her that we should keep this between us. Like, what was she even thinking? My wife immediately screenshotted that text and sent it right back to the group chat for everyone to see. At that point, it was game over. The devil had no more tricks left. She had exposed herself in front of the entire family, and there was no coming back from it. The group chat went dead silent after that. Nobody had anything left to say. It was like we were all processing the fact that after years of being manipulated and lied to, the truth had finally come out. A few days later, my mom called me. She sounded different, like she was still trying to wrap her head around everything that had happened. She said, "I think I have been wrong about you for a long time. I did not realize how bad things really were." It was not exactly an apology, but it was the closest I would ever get. And honestly, it felt good to finally hear her admit it. But she also asked me something that I still do not know how to answer. She asked, "Do you forgive me? I mean, after 30 years of being the scapegoat, the black sheep, the one everyone blamed for everything, do I forgive her? It is complicated. I do not think I can just forget everything that happened. But at the same time, I do not want to carry all that anger with me for the rest of my life. The truth is, I do not even know what kind of relationship I want with my family moving forward. They have started seeing me differently, which is a huge shift from the way things used to be. But now, I have to figure out how to navigate this new dynamic, and I am not sure if I want to be close with them or keep my distance like I have been doing for years. What I do know is that for the first time in my life, I feel like I am in control. I am not living in the shadow of my stepsister's lies anymore, and it is a huge relief. It almost cost me everything, my career, my family, my health, but it was worth it to finally expose her for who she really is.